everyone, and welcome to today's webinar organized by QDesk. Today, we are discussing a very interesting subject, the change in narrative from conventional to flex real estate. There has been a paradigm shift in the world of work since the onset of the pandemic, bringing about significant changes. While traditional offices were designed with only productivity in mind, there has been a fundamental change now with the flexible workspaces focused on employees' need for work life balance, flexibility, and safety gaining importance. The concept of flex workspaces is on the rise and is redefining the office sector, with many businesses across the globe investing in co working or flex spaces as they look for cost effective, fully furnished spaces. But the important question to consider now is whether the brokerage business stands to benefit from the offices of the future or not. To set the context, I'll start by giving out a few data points. We have seen an exponential rise in flex workspaces from 1% penetration of total CRE space. The flex spaces penetration is currently at about 5.5% across all major cities in India. The demand for flexible workspaces in India is estimated to jump to 130 to 140 million square feet by 2025, accounting for one third of global co-working inventory. QDesk itself has listed about 1.2 million desks in 52 cities. During pandemic, they added net 275 centers on their platform. According to a recent report by IPC, 86% of enterprise occupiers see flexible workspaces solutions as a crucial part of their real estate strategies. These are some interesting data points. You can take it with a pinch of salt, but let's get started with our webinar. I'll now introduce our esteemed panelists for this session. I first welcome Karan Singh Sodhi, Managing Director, JLL Mumbai, and Director, Board QDesk. Karan comes with immense experience and expertise in CRE and currently manages the transaction business for commercial, retail, capital markets, land, private wealth group, data center, alternatives, and industrial businesses. A warm welcome to you, Karan. We're delighted to have you with us today.
Thank you, Sumit. Pleasure's mine.
Now I welcome the next speaker for our session, Bhavin Thakkar, MD, Mumbai Head, Cross-Border Tenant Advisory, Savills. Bhavin is an expert in providing customers with a versatile approach to the overall strategic planning and long-term real estate solutions. Bhavin is also a board member of the CoreNet Global India chapter. Welcome, Bhavin. We are very excited to hear your valuable thoughts on the topic.
Thanks very much, Sumit.
Moving on to the next panelist, we have with us Bhupendra Singh, Managing Director, Regional Tenant Representation, India Colliers. Bhupendra is a highly accomplished leader in the corporate real estate industry with core expertise in occupier and investor advisory services, leading to cost optimization, expansions, portfolio consolidations, and strategic account management for domestic and global occupiers. Welcome, Bhupendra. Looking forward to hearing your insights.
Thanks, Sumit.
Up next, we have with us Anand Patil, Senior Director, Knight Frank India. Anand oversees Knight Frank's office leasing division and is known for giving creative solutions to his clients and structure complex deals due to his expertise in brokerage, construction, real estate sales, and real estate account management. Welcome. We're thrilled to have you on board, Anand.
Thank you so much, Sumit.
And last but not the least, we have QDesk's founder and CEO, Paras Arora. QDesk is India's largest tech-enabled marketplace for flexible workspaces, offering clients enterprise solutions, managed offices, and co-working spaces across 54 cities. Welcome, Paras. It's wonderful to have you on the panel today.
Thank you so much, Sumit, and thanks to Bhupendra, Bhavin, Anand, and Karan. Really exciting panel. It's fascinating that we are taking brokerage and consulting in the center stage, and Sumit representing the co-working ecosystem. So really looking forward to this session.
Great. So without much ado, my first question is for Karan. Karan, how have you seen office brokerage business evolving from IPC's lens, a pre-flex era, say before 2017 and now?
Thanks, Sumit. So I think it's a paradigm shift. If you look at it, I mean, it's like two different eras which has happened. Pre-2017, it was all typical your vanilla leases, your typical demand being from your back office clients, be it captive or be it third-party sources, and obviously given some front office and sales office across tier 1 cities which have been there. And we did have some sort of furnished kind of a solution in the likes of the old age business centers which were active, but that didn't have any actually much contribution on the overall scale of the office demand pre-2017. I think three things that changed from 2017. One, obviously, the overall exposure and the millennial workforce which we have across India, being the largest. The number two, the social demand and the whole community kind of experience which was required. And number three, obviously, with the onset of the co-working, the way it was presented and introduced to the market, I think it took everybody by surprise. To be honest, I didn't estimate it to be so big, but the numbers state clearly a different picture. So if you look at it pre-2017, we were always in the range of 32 to 34 million square feet of office supply across India in top 7 cities. When you look at 2018, 2019 being an outlier, we looked at about 42 million square feet of net absorption. And very interestingly, 15% of that uptake was purely from co-working players. And that's a big, significant change, right? And obviously, just fast forward to COVID, which came in. We had some fence-sitters pre-COVID, the traditional multinationals and Indian corporates, the large players, who were very reluctant of this whole new model and who didn't experiment by actually trying out this solution as an alternate office solution for them. That's changed. In fact, last 8 to 9 months, we're seeing a lot of the old traditional companies also now come up and be very creative and very open to this idea. So I think it's a dramatic and a very paradigm shift which happened.
Got it. Karan, very interesting points. One follow-on question to you: how do you see the perspective of developers changing towards co-working operators? Do you see any change pre-17 versus post-17 scenario?
I think again, very relevant question. Developers too, actually, very few of them were very open to this idea to give it a solution. But if you look at again last 12 months, right, it's more a client-driven demand now. That any campus, be it if it's a campus, it has to have some security flexible solutions at any point of time, right? Because right now we're in a not very great economic situation. But if you look at pre-COVID, demand used to be random and very erratic. So somebody would need immediately next, say, 2 months' time, have 400 seats added. So those kind of flexibility in large campuses, right, for players is a must. And I think that is really changing. Developers who are also fence-sitters and not open to the idea are now more open to this concept and are very welcoming operators. In fact, some of them are also experimenting by actually starting their own models.
Right. Perfect. Moving to you, Bhupendra, how do you see the flex share in overall transaction and deal portfolio pre-COVID and in the current pandemic world and maybe post-COVID? What trends are you spotting during the COVID for flex and co-working?
Right, thanks, Amit, and thank you for the question. Very pertinent in today's date and time. Start with, I think, one thing that people need to understand is that co-working managed office solutions was something which was considered to be a part of probably a building which is not a part of the CBD in some SBD to get a building going. That's how this concept probably started off, 2010, 11, 12, sometime around that period. When it really took off. But you see, I have a statistic with me, which is interesting, that in 2019, which is supposedly the peak of Indian real estate, which has been the best year for the IPCs, for developers, and from an occupier standpoint, the absorption was the highest. There were roughly about 500 odd leases with co-working players across India. Now that statistic in 2016-17 was at about 350 odd. So between 17 to 19, that jumped to over 150 leases extra. And in 2021, there have been a fair bit of consolidation which has happened. Quite a few people have found it difficult to make ends meet because occupiers were not there. Now that number from 496 has come down to 303 leases. And this is a statistic which very clearly depicts that there is a very clear correction in the market which has happened. But at the same time, 66% of the area occupied by managed office service providers is only amongst the top 10. And the balance area is with the rest of the smaller players. So where I'm coming to is that probably this industry saw a peak, we thought, in 2019, but I guess that was just the tip of the iceberg. The real storm is now. And I think, in the next 2 to 3 years, this quantum, the total space occupied currently by co-working is roughly around 3.5–4%, which is likely to go up to 9 to 10% of the overall stock in India. And this is over the next 3 years. If I were to simplify that from a lease perspective, if there are currently about 303 odd leases with about 4.3% of area occupied by managed office, this is going to go to up to 10 million. And that is the number I'm talking about.
Got it. Bhavin, any thoughts from your side? What we are seeing in a pre-COVID, any trends emerging in flex workspaces during these times?
Yes, I think across the country, Sumit, we've seen that there have been, it's been a pendulum, on and off restrictions, lockdowns, certain restrictions being eased off, etc. And with that, what has happened is that the general occupancy level in each office has significantly come down. So even today, depending on the city and the nature of restrictions, office occupancy is typically in the range of 10 to 50%. So what that has meant for co-working or flex operators is that they also cannot occupy the office fully to that extent. And as we've also seen, occupiers are also experimenting with various models. So several occupiers, when their leases were coming to an end, termination or lock-in periods ended, they thought that if for the next 6 to 12 months we are not going to be occupying it fully, why don't we reduce our footprint? And with that, to give employees some flexibility, they've taken and experimented with these hub and spoke models. They have also gone ahead and taken some medium-term spaces in co-working spaces because the typical advantages that they offer. There is lower lock-in, there's extreme flexibility, there's no capex investment required. So I think it will evolve. Over the next 12 to 18 months, we will further see what works and what doesn't work. Today, most employees are given the flexibility by the organization that they can come and go to office whenever it's convenient, whenever it's workable for them, depending on their health and their level of safety and all of that. But I think over time, organizations will start telling teams that, okay, you need flexibility, we will respect that, but you need to be in office, let's say 2 days a week. And these are the 2 days because we'll call your whole team here. And then you guys can brainstorm, you can do what needs to be done as a team together, etc. So I think the whole model as to, work from anywhere or work from a hub and spoke model or work from the main headquarter office in the city, I think we all will experiment as organizations over the next several months, and then it will evolve depending on the nature of the business and depending on, how much work can you do from home in a month, how much brainstorming do you need with the larger team, etc. So I think these trends are being seen right now. But we will see more and more of evolving models over the next few quarters, I guess.
Sure. So I agree with you. We did a survey. Office did a survey last week with almost about 1,000+ respondents, and we saw a massive 82% of the professionals say that they are comfortable returning to the office premises in 2021 post vaccination, provided they are given flexible work options to choose from. So that's what we saw a very massive rate. I mean, these numbers can keep on changing because it's a sentiment scenario. Moving on to you, Paras. Paras, you have an extensive experience, while running one of the largest, online marketplace now. What do you think are the brokerage opportunities in flex? Supply, demand, renewal. Also, do you distinguish these kind of opportunities between managed office versus co-working?
Sure, Sumit. Before I get into the brokerage and transaction fee opportunities in the Flex ecosystem, just want to add on to the great data points which everyone mentioned, starting from Karan and then Bhupi and Bhavin. Our estimation is that there are very forms of flex which are being adopted. People are talking of hub and spoke, and people are talking of hyperflex, which is absolutely on demand, which Bhavan just highlighted, that you can come to office for 2 days. Overall, if we have to structure a data point where we are right now in terms of office stock, The grade A is approximately 600 million square feet, and roughly the same, around 600 for B and C. And so we estimate that right now, including the small players and a lot of growth which has happened in 2 years, including in COVID times in tier 2, tier 3, the overall uptake is around 11%, and it is going to be around 30% in just 2.5 years from now. So 2024, you might feel that we're having a physical conference, not a webinar, but talking more flex being a mainstream. So globally, these terms co-working, flex, and now they've started calling it as agile offices. So this brings in a lot of agility. Now, coming to brokerage and transaction fee opportunity is definitely first and the foremost the supply side, to the co-working operators, to you and all the national homegrown operators where IPCs have really done well. Second is where people like us, the platforms focus is the retail level demand, because co-working still has around 15 to 20%, which is open and flex and high churn kind of business model. And then, of course, the private office within co-working is now turning out to be India's best, adoption as far as enterprises are concerned. And now, when we were talking about hub and spoke, hub being the private managed bespoke office for the enterprises, which everyone here has done some case studies or the other. And there, the opportunity is fantastic, where you're part of the supply side real estate acquisition, then you're part of the whole delivery aspect, which is the fit outs, and then service elements, and so you make fee on the supply as well as demand side. And finally, which is very specific to platforms, is the Hyperflex, which is the day booking. In this, directly the booking is going to the providers, and in some cases through platform like us. So I think it's a great opportunity. And now with landlords themselves getting into back-to-back managed office, or setting up their own co-working. So overall, I think it's a great for brokerage industry.
Got it. I think this question I would really like to pull in everyone, because this is relevant for everyone and a perspective. So Anand, with respect to the brokerage opportunity from the flex spaces, you see how it evolved in 2015. Did you see it in a very serious manner that this is going to be a very strong a fee opportunity for the firm, versus today? How do you see the whole thing?
So thanks, Sumit. I mean, I think if we go back to 2015, it was a very, very small segment for us. We actually had to be present in the segment to service some of our clients, and it was not really a focus area for us because the revenue size was too small. But 18 onwards, we've been tracking the market because we realized that it's slowly becoming bigger and bigger. And we realized that the growth in this particular segment has been almost 500% in the last 3 years. And like the rest of the team mentioned, the share of the co-working sector has really grown in the overall office absorption. We did some numbers, and it was 13% in 2019, the share of co-working absorption, and that was more than a sector like manufacturing, which was at 11 or 12%. So for us, it's now become mainstream. I think in the last year and this year, it should contribute almost 20 to 30% of our revenues. And for us right now, we would lose an opportunity if we are not able to bring in flex solutions to our clients, because the business environment is so difficult right now. It's very difficult to predict what will happen in the next 6 months, next 12 months. So to safeguard your organizational interests, you have to look at flexible solutions. You have to look at solutions where capex is very light, and you have to look at solutions where in case a third wave comes through, how would you manage your office premises? And what if the third wave doesn't come and you want to get everyone back into the office? You have to look at the flexible solution in place. And thankfully, a lot of clients are now well educated on this concept. So we don't have to explain the concept. They already know about it. And when we have those interactions, they are very, very open to these concepts because these are now established and part of the market for us.
Yeah, thanks, Anand. Karan, coming back to you around on the same question of brokerage opportunity. You see, like Anand mentioned, it's turning out to be a mainstream segment for them, even from a fee opportunity perspective. It's not only about catering to client needs and serving them, so they have to go from flex. How do you see this as a fee opportunity?
I think it's going to be massive. It is, in fact, contributing decent amount of revenue across the country for us as well. But in the future, it's only going to grow bigger and bigger. The wallet share will increase, especially our fee opportunities from players like yourselves and others in the market, Sumit. So see, I mean, look at the mindset change. So if you look at the early 2000s, right? I mean, corporates typically wanted to do everything by themselves, have their own large admin teams and everything to themselves, manage the whole building themselves, manage the whole facility. Then came the slow era of changing and outsourcing the internal services. Have realized that. I wouldn't be surprised that in the next 2 to 3 years, you'll see a larger amount of the traditional corporates outsourcing even the capex part. So I think it's going to be just, we've anyway done software services outsourcing. Let's do the capex outsourcing, and it's not a core thing. Let players like you and others come in and manage the whole space and show. And the fact that you have millennials, more and more millennials coming as workforce, right? I mean, you have to change. So I think that's going to be a big contributor to create those demand for operators like yourselves and others in the market. And office supply will also will see a lot of demand from this sector. So I'm pretty positive, and it's only going to increase further.
Great, perfect. Moving on to my next question, Bhavin, you carry a rich experience around now. This is more of a crystal ball kind of a question. Post COVID, what do you see the share of flex? And in what avatar of flex do you see? Hub and spoke or hyperflex? Paras mentioned agile, remote, anywhere working. What kind of avatar you see, and what kind of share of flex do you see coming up? And my second part of the question is, do you see any change in approach towards traditional BCP? Will it evolve to on-demand agile BCP as well?
The crystal ball gazing is always difficult, so I'm not sure how accurate will this be. But I do feel that from a perspective where we are today, and we are looking at things from a COVID safe kind of a perspective, and also the fact, originally when COVID came in March last year, we all thought it's going to be a few months. But now it's about 15 months, and we still don't know if we're going to see the end of it in 21 or maybe 22. We are still not sure. So I think organizations as well as co-working or flex service providers will have to be agile in the way they approach business. Businesses will have to, of course, look at how they're going to sustain their business model, how they're going to function. Many of them have grown in this pandemic period as well, and I'm guessing many will continue to grow in the next couple of years or so. So I think, firstly, the hub and spoke model is being experimented. And some form of success we all will witness, because it does make sense, right? We've seen it in the last 15 months. We've all been working from home and a little bit work from anywhere. We've worked from holiday homes, etc. also. So that work from anywhere concept is definitely going to get settled down. To what extent and how much and how many days in a month, etc. I think that's what remains to be seen. I think from a BCP perspective, the one good thing that several large co-working players have been able to offer is what we are calling, I think, hyperflex here, that you can go and work from anywhere from any center in the city, or maybe any center across the country as well. So the larger players who have more of a national footprint, I think they will be able to offer this. And also there are some players who are kind of aggregating and making sure that while they have only a few centers, they have access to other centers who also have few centers across other parts of the country. I think those players would have an edge, and organizations would like to offer that kind of flexibility, like Karan said, to especially the millennial people who today are in one city, tomorrow might want to be in another. For some months in a year, they may want to work from the hometown, who knows. So if that kind of flexibility can be offered to employees, I think they will stick to the organizations, they will like the workplace better, and it will mean more business for the co-working operators, for for the flex operators, for online prop tech aggregators, brokerage businesses, and all of us, I think. So that's what I can see, Sumit.
Got it. Bhupendra, you have any perspective on it? I mean, if you would have a crystal ball, or you have to speculate, a 12-month down the line, what do you think?
Well, I think it's a very apt question for me because I think I'm walking the talk at the moment. I've just moved and consolidated my operations into a managed office place.
Right.
I moved on to Horizon with WeWork. So we partnered and we completely, I personally feel that as time passes by and as we move towards normalcy, it's not a trend, it is going to be the law. And the law is very clearly that we will see occupiers moving towards a hybrid model. Not everybody is expected to be in office every day. I think people like productivity is measured for employees and resources. I think productivity is going to be very highly monitored as far even your workplace is concerned. And which is where I think managed office players comes into play. Because if you have X amount of money, would you want to be investing that money in making your fit out and furniture? Or would you want to be probably hiring more resources, creating alternate business plans for yourselves, and investing the money in your business? And I think that is the paradigm shift, which is very, very important. In real estate, nothing happens overnight, but I think this is a change which I see in the next 12 to 15 months as people flock towards offices once again. I think this is the major change. A lot of larger occupiers, SME category occupiers will not invest in capex. That's a given. Nobody in the SME segment will want to invest money in capex. I think the larger players will work on the hybrid model. Startups, obviously, I think they've found a place very clearly convenient in their living rooms and friend garages and places like that. But just one more dimension to the whole thing, that is this the perfect solution? Well, I don't think that's the perfect solution. The perfect solution, we are still about 3 to 4 years away from that.
Yeah.
What that will be, maybe a large developer does probably the entire 200,000, 300,000 square feet building in their campus as a collab space or something like that which will be supported by somebody like you. Because in larger campuses, I don't think there will be fragmented managed office spaces. It's going to be the entire building itself like it is in the West. That's what I think we're headed in about 12 months and respectively 36 months from now.
Yeah. Very interesting points made, Bhupinder. Anand, moving to you, you are on the front line driving, occupier demand. What do you think is the occupier perspective right now? Is it wait and watch? Is it go back to traditional office, or there's a change in narrative to multiple offices, remote working? For the large enterprises, how do you see if the leases are getting expired? What kind of deals are they expecting?
So been interacting with a lot of clients, and I think at the business leadership level, eventually the leaders want people back in the office, and the drivers are very clear. You can't have good collaboration virtually. Your team bonding and the relationships that form amongst different teams won't happen virtually. And a lot of people have joined companies as new hires during the last year, so they can't understand the company culture unless they see employees and rest of their colleagues working together. So business leaders want people to eventually come back to the office, but there is a lot of hesitancy because some staff is not vaccinated. The last month was very difficult for us in the country, and a lot of people have seen COVID up close, so there is some hesitancy. But with the pace of vaccination improving, the sentiment is slowly improving. There's a lot more confidence now in employees and employers to get people back to the office. Most of the people that we spoke to, I don't recollect almost anyone wanting to go back to the traditional office. Almost everyone is talking of a hybrid model. The mechanism of the model differs from organization to organization, but most people want to get at least some employees back to the office few days a week. They want to offer flexibility. Some more insights that we got from clients were, maybe I don't need such a large office. I might go in for a smaller space, but I could provide better amenities to my employees, get them back to the office, more collaboration spaces, maybe a better building and better infrastructure. And this could be with a managed office provider, because I don't want to invest in capex. And one more thing, what we've seen, which is on the lines that Karan spoke, that things are getting outsourced to professionals. So in the managed office segment, they have taken these things to the next level. So in our pitches, when we talk to clients, we already have test fits, designs, and sometimes 3D renderings ready to present to the client, which is very exciting for us, because we've never seen that in the last few years. We would reach that stage at the end of the transaction. And this, because of, I think, the professional approach, the timeline to do all of this has really gotten shortened. So I think there's lots of excitement in the market. People are preferring to do a wait and watch approach. They don't want to commit to large spaces, but they want to have some plan in place to get people back to the office.
Right. Karan, pulling you into this question, and specifically from a large enterprises, how do you see if the leases are getting expired? What is the kind of thought process they are having? Is it a kind of a renegotiation, a kind of a completely different shift towards satellite offices, or what's the kind of thought you see large occupiers are scrambling with?
I think this is my personal observation again, Sumit. I haven't seen much like the panic button. Okay, work from home is here to stay. Maybe we have to do something very drastically different. I think for a couple of cases we've seen, okay, they're happy to do a renewal, but maybe for a shorter duration and shorter lock-in. Obviously, they want to tide through how this whole situation evolves and comes back. But to be honest, I don't think anybody's, personally, I have not listened to anybody take that drastic call, okay, I need to shut office totally and people are fine working from home. That's not the case on ground, actually.
Right. So this is similar to our experience as well. Especially from a large occupier's perspective, we are seeing a wait and watch approach primarily. Any segment of customer whom one of you is seeing is making some kind of a drastic approach. Any certain segment of business you are seeing is moving in a bit more faster or more early adoption towards newer trends. Bhupendra, Bhavin, to you.
So one of my clients, they are in the consulting space, and a lot of young talent. They wanted to go, on the hyperflex model, where employees have gone back to their hometowns, and they wanted space in multiple cities so that people could attend office, because a lot of people were not willing to come back and take up space again in the metros. But it's still at an experimentation stage, because they don't know the effect, how it will affect the company in the little longer run. So it's a thought process, but they're yet to take the leap, because they've not really seen anyone do it on ground as of now.
Got it. Paras?
Yeah. I mean, last 6 months of the last financial year and now last 15-20 days, really, I would say flamboyant kind of requirements, and thanks to all the operators for backing us and with their agility and excellence in giving the in fact, Anand mentioned that how managed office guys are pitching. It's fantastic. So there have been case studies of 1,000 employees using 22 offices across India, no long-term contract, month-on-month rolling. There have been cases in consulting firms right here in Gurgaon. They have started Hyperflex, which is booking day pass across the country, because everyone is there at hometown. BCP, which I wanted to highlight, I think the biggest, I would say in next 2 years, you'll see a lot of BCP moving from a blocked real estate to absolute agile and on-demand real estate. But yes, they would have a tie-up where they call it like a subscription-based rather than a rental-based model, where there would be a subscription to, say, a platform like us, where something happens, God forbid, in Mumbai floods or anything, but when they need, they will pay for that particular time frame rather than blocked real estate. We are doing a case study there. I think what COVID has overall done, if we have to take clues, is apart from employee there at the center, we were talking about employee health and safety, wellness for years now. But I think the biggest disruption which has come is putting employees' productivity and the whole commute time as a factor, as a hindrance to productivity. So that's where I think Flex will get all the love and I would say adoption, because if you then it would be hub and spoke or hyper. I think a lot of employee service surveys which we have done, or even you have done, Sumit, there they have highlighted around 82%, in our case 90%, that they want to come to office, but they want the overall commute time to be less than 1 hour. So that gives emergence to the whole hub and spoke model or hybrid. And also we've done a very lovely case study where office has been blocked for 50 people, but 100 will use. So that's the exact hybrid. And that's not going to be only in co-working, it would be in their offices as well. For example, someone has 20,000 square feet in Cyber City and they have 250, kind of a layout, 250 desks, but actually they're looking at, making it for 500 and using more of a tech that, at a given point in time, 150 people would use, but actually 450 can adopt to this hybrid strategy.
Got it. Bhavin, any thoughts from your side around on the current occupiers demand, the occupiers perspective right now?
Yeah, I think very similar thoughts in general, Sumit. And we also have a similar platform called Work There, and even there, what we are seeing is that in the startup kind of a background of companies, or in the mid segment MSMEs kind of segment again, the demand has been for 15 to 25 seats, and they are saying the same thing, that we have more employees, but we are going to block less seats because not everyone's going to come in every day. So we'll call in certain teams on certain days, and which is why we need this number of seats. So that's on the small side. On the slightly bigger play, the enterprise play or the managed office play also, I think we are seeing trends which are more medium term as against short term. And the reasons why they are going for a flex operator or a managed office are what we all know about. Zero or no capex, flexibility, lower lock-in periods. I think the other good thing that is being offered for many players these days is that the security angle is taken care of. The technology angle with respect to security, that's what was a major barrier, I think, in the business center days pre 2017. And now I think that's getting resolved with most providers. So that I think is a very important play for the larger players. So that box gets ticked. And I think the other thing is that occupiers are genuinely looking at these managed offices, because they don't just offer these typical advantages which you're all aware of, but it's a good blend of facilities management play, good quality. The community angle is taken care of. There's a lot of engagement with employees, so that kind of tick boxes, that HR angle as well, wellness of employees, some speeches happening, some webinars happening, etc. So it's a very good blend. And when you come to office, a lot of common areas are like a day lounge or a good quality coffee shop, etc. So I think this whole blend, what the modern day co-working spaces are offering, is something that is appealing more and more to the employees, which are the millennials and the others, and hence therefore the longer term occupiers as well. So it's not just the short term play, or what we used to see earlier in especially larger cities, that co-working or flex was more like an incubation space till the final actual office gets ready in the next 6 to 9 months. It's now more that it itself is a challenger to the regular or the conventional office space.
Got it. Thank you, Bhavin, for that. One of the interesting part which our survey also pointed out was that work flexibility is one of the top factors for job satisfaction, and almost about 57% of the respondents were willing to switch jobs or trade in for a higher salary for the flexibility around on job. That's the current sentiment. I don't know. These numbers can honestly change, very drastically 6 months down the line. Okay, so my next section, this is where things get very, very serious. I will actually start taking notes now, and this is where I would require top point from each one of you. So my question is, what support brokers expect to get and expect to give to the flex operator segment? Primarily, what are your expectations from flex operators, and what are your suggestions for us? So let me start with Bhupender.
That's one question which I said, Sumit will ask, let me see when. Well, I think probably, you're all innovators. Let me just compliment the industry per se. The way I think we only had 10 years ago, 12 years ago, I think one of the major players everybody would have heard of is Regus, used to be there. But the way you guys, I think the players have innovated themselves, it's a case study in itself. You evolved the workspace so much, just do a comparison of office 5 years ago to office today. I can't even imagine that this would happen probably 5 years from before. But what is going to happen 5 years from now? I think it's going to be maybe, I think, one of these segments or maybe a part of this whole situation that all of us, we're all people who've done work for about nearly 2 decades. We need to think about is that today co-working, managed office, hybrid, work from home is working because there is no poaching of jobs happening, no poaching of profiles happening.
Yeah.
Now, in the same IT category, the same larger IT players in the software giants in the BPO segment, you just put the word iteration into it. And suddenly they will want an office. Suddenly you'll want the offsites. Suddenly you'll want the team building. Everything will change. And I think that's the beauty of human nature. We are flexible people. It is a flexible solution for the moment, Sumit. And I'm 100% sure that my entire panel friends will agree to this, that we can't, I don't think that in case you had two large IT companies working opposite to each other, for the moment, your CXO can comment that, okay, we'll have this much hybrid, that much work from home, but just put job poaching into play. You will suddenly want the team leader, you'll want team building activities, everything will change.
Right.
Probably, maybe giving, having a food counter within the premise is something which I can see very clearly happening, because retail will walk into your offices. The F&B category, which is probably not everybody's domain at the moment, and there is a iota of doubt for people to go out, etc., etc. And what I can suggest to all you fantastic managed office players is that somewhere F&B dining will become a part of the offering that you're giving. And it may involve some sort of minimum guarantees, etc., what you ask for typically now. But because probably I've just opened, started to operate from here, and that's one big thing that I can foresee.
Mhm.
Because people want to go out, there are not many options. So what do? And from an EHS perspective, employee health and safety perspective, well, if you can come into the office, you can definitely, you can cater for it. And that I think is a very big factor, which I think probably you will look at. Somewhere I like to touch upon that point where, tier 2 and tier 3 cities, etc., etc. I don't think that's happening. Aspirationally, in the north, everybody wants to have a glass office and a high rise. In Bombay, it's the same thing. Same in downtown, same in the uptowns. In south, everybody aspirationally from a college, when you graduate, you don't want to be sitting into a shack and working out of there. Shack is cool when you have a glass office. It's not cool when you walk out of college.
Yeah.
And that's where the beauty lies. It's an interim solution, Sumit. I can tell you, but whenever we are near normalcy, team building, the human element, character will define the place that occupier chooses. For operators like yourself, I think it's going to be EHS and the kind of environment that you can provide, I think. That's about it. Thank you.
Thanks, Bhupinder. So two takeaways for me, focus more on EHS, which everyone does, but relook at EHS aspect. Second, F&B. That's a very interesting point you made. Anand, the same question to you. What support brokers expect to get and expect to give to the flex operator segment?
So I wanted to, respond with something very practical. The pricing mechanisms are sometimes a little too complicated. So there are so many models right now that every operator proposes. And some have certain elements which are built in, some have certain elements which are not there. I think grade A good occupiers want the operators to have some profit margin, because if you have to build a sustainable workplace, the operator must make margins to give you a long-term solution. And they realize that. But sometimes, it's very difficult to understand what is included, what could be the pricing model of a certain operator. And if there is some transparency or some way to compare and understand it better, I think that will really help the occupiers. Because in the end, they want a partner in this whole solution who can sustain, who will be with them through this journey. And it's not a one-sided deal. So I think that's my input.
Got it. So Anand, what I understand is primarily in managed offices, because co-working anyways it's transparent and straightforward. But in managed offices, let's have a very clean formula around on pricing. Let's not complicate
Yeah.
things, right? That's what
Yeah.
you're saying. Perfect.
Yeah.
Karan, thoughts from you. One top point.
I think I'll take a cue from what Anand said. I think it's so complicated sometimes pricing. We get surprised what you pull out of the hat sometimes, So don't pull out surprises. Simply put, I think we need a dummies guide for brokers who actually want to actually be educated. I think that's a critical part. I think that everyone in the community of brokers should be educated the value which you bring on the table and simple benefits and don't complicate life. That's one thing. From expectation from brokers to from players, I think please don't compromise on the quality. We trust clients, trust us, who in turn we trust you. So that's a big critical factor. Quality. So that's one thing which I would say. And like HS, I would also say sustainability and carbon footprint. If that could also be thought about from a future perspective, because that's where the whole industry is moving to.
Yeah. So Karan, a very interesting point, and I think quality and credibility will become very important, especially in these times. Occupiers will become very, very conscious about the players they are partnering with, whether the protocols are being followed or not. So that becomes that's going to help the industry as a whole, because everyone within the industry, a smaller player or a larger player, will be completely conscious about it. Bhavin, over to you. What suggestions?
I heard what others said, Sumit, and I agree with that. So I'm obviously not going to repeat that. But from what we can offer help as brokers, I think we can make sure that we bring all the right opportunities immediately at the right time to the service providers so that a good solution can be taken. Also, what we can do and what we continue to do is to make sure that we communicate that there is this platform available for conventional occupiers, because many of them have a mind block that no, we don't want to go to a co-working player. So it's sometimes difficult to explain to them and bring them to the table to at least discuss that, look, it's not the usual traditional model of co-working. There are many models now available, including managed spaces or purely investing in capex. Later on, you can choose if you want to manage the office or they manage the office, etc., etc. There are several models. So what we can promise is that we will make sure that we communicate that appropriately and correctly to the future occupiers. And in terms of what we expect, I think it's pretty simple for us from my perspective. I don't know if there are too many Narcos fans here. Pablo Escobar used to say we are bandits. So we are simple people, we are brokers. We expect brokerage on time from operators like you. And I think good turnaround time, which we see in most cases, because clients expect quick turnaround times. So if we in turn can get that from operators, I think that helps us immensely.
Great, perfect. So Bhavin, the two takeaways: on-time brokerage and good delivery to client. Client servicing is the most important aspect. Paras, to you, I mean, you have been seeing clients for a while, various different kind of customers. What's your thought and what's your advice to operators like us?
I have a mini book on that actually, but I'm just going to use a couple of points that Bhavan said it. It's the payments on time. And I feel that, a suggestion to all the operators across, the country would be, change in narrative from, getting the occupant to retaining the occupant. And also ensuring broker getting some fee on the renewal, because that part of the See, overall flex space operator and the overall ecosystem, very ethical, very transparent. There is a lot of agility in getting the proposals, and even the whole transaction cycle is actually, less than 7 days. If you talk of the, sub 40 seat transactions. If we are part of the renewal, then, don't make brokers go to the client again in the 11th month to relocate them. If there is a renewal fee attached to it, then things are sorted. So one is change in narrative for the operators towards the occupant in retention, hospitality, and all that. Second is the payments, and third would be like be a bit more innovative in terms of footprint. A lot of people are setting up at the same stretch or the same micro market. I think there are ample opportunities within the enterprise segment in tier 2, tier 3 cities as well, where good operators are missing.
Right.
Yeah.
Perfect. Good points, Paras. I'm not saying anything because I'm one against, right now a larger pool. But good points around from everyone around on it.
I think you should mention the expectations which you have from all of us.
See, primarily, like the survey which was done, we depend on the channel partners largely on our demand side. Uh, Now, the primary expectation from our side and it came more from a COVID aspect. I think the kind of price realizations which we have started to see, it has gone down. We would, because the input cost for us, the kind of pricing at which we have leased the space, and what kind of model and pricing will it translate to. So we would request some kind of support from IPCs and the channel partners around over here with respect to holding on to a fair price where we also can have run a sustainable business. So that's where everyone needs to be a bit more responsible around on hammering a price for a short term doesn't help anyone around. So that's my only point. Over apart from it, we get great level of support, and the industry has become decently mature around on it. My last section and my last point on it, my last question for you, one top point. Uh, the stakeholders in the flex business have transformed from 2017 with tremendous space acquisition in tier 1 cities. Do you think all this space acquisition, this is correlated with the kind of demand from occupiers? Have the space acquisition gone wrong anywhere? And any other areas of space acquisition which the flex operators can go for? Uh, I'll start with Bhupender, you.
Thanks, Sumit. Yeah, I think, probably I'd like to pick up a cue from what Paras said, that, probably you need to fragment yourselves better in cities, because I do tend to agree that if it's a CBD, we all know where you're headed, whether it's Mumbai, Bangalore, or, North India in Gurgaon or Noida for that matter. But I think the model has to become hub and spoke in your category also.
Right.
You need to have a big setup and then probably follow up with satellite centers for yourselves. And that, I think, in case that could happen, it will be something which a lot of people, you may not be working out of a main center every day, but because you're a part of the same umbrella, I think the benefits will be huge in case you can do that. It has to be the hub and spoke model very clearly in my mind. And yeah, I think that's the only, maybe one more thought which comes to my mind is that in case you could also have a fair share of transactions which are, some sort of case studies, etc., that you'd like to be releasing out for all of us. Because we do this all the time, whatever color we represent on this panel at the moment, we've all done enough number of transactions and we can talk about it. But we don't get to know a lot of transactions that you directly probably get in touch with occupiers. How, what, and in what format was it different to a broker-led relationship or through an IPC? If you did that directly, your sales team, how are those accomplished and what is different in the degree of servicing, etc.? Because I'm sure you have your incentives given
Right.
to your sales force, etc., and very similar to a brokerage pattern. So yeah, that's about it.
Great. Perfect. Karan, thoughts from your side on the kind of supply?
I think Sumit, don't get me wrong if I'm saying, I think when 2017, 16, the whole frenzy was there to actually put dots on the map in the cities. And then it was cool to attract startups and techies to co-working spaces. Somewhere down the line, I think my view again, I think somewhere we compromise on the quality of the building. So toned down building would be a very like a cool thing to have as a solution to occupier. And thankfully, Abhina, what's happened has happened on ground. Maybe it's time because I think the industry matured. Now the enterprise clients are open to this idea, and that's going to stay and only going to grow. So maybe it's time for operators to look at those kind of assets and actually slowly move out of it. Because some of the buildings, even trust me, I would never recommend to any client myself, or even not even walk into those. So
Right.
that's one simple thing.
Got it. Bhavin, thoughts from your side?
I think Sumit, density is an important play, and many of these players, occupiers who are looking at co-working or flex spaces as a long-term solution, do have this in mind that most of these centers tend to be very dense. So I think, I mean, of course, if there's customization happening, then it's taken care of. But even otherwise, I think density is one thing that should be looked at, and that kind of links back to the EHS angle also that we discussed earlier. They are both kind of linked, and hence I think that's an important play. Other than that, I think more and more with in this COVID world that we are living in, what's more important is the social spaces, the collaborative spaces. It'll probably be less of small private offices which have a 10 or 20 seater as compared to having more of these open areas, social areas where people can come, and there are some booths here and there where you can sit and have a private conversation. But I think these larger common areas will become more and more important from an occupier perspective, whether it's millennials or non-millennials, whether it's larger enterprise solution kind of organizations, or the startups, SMEs, etc. So I think these are 2 points I feel will be important as we move forward.
Got it. Anand, any thoughts?
So I think one advantage that you have naturally is that you are far faster in your response, in selecting buildings, assets. The pandemic has thrown in a lot of opportunities in key markets in every city, which were not there before. And I think the pricing is also very attractive right now. Landlords are offering a lot of incentives. And I think, so if you get the building right and the location right, and you pick the asset at the right time to get the right pricing, I think that's the right strategy. It will help you in the long run, because I think in the next 2-3 years, the market should, bounce back, revive. And when we see high occupancy in a particular micro market, if you hold a good asset, then for sure you're going to get good demand.
Got it. Perfect. So I'll also summarize, everyone's response to it and suggestions. So like Bhupendra, you mentioned around on larger number of centers, cover more tier 2. That was also came around. Karan's point was more around on the choice of buildings. Bhavin's point was more around on the density around. So that's working very well. Like I see most of the operators who have been operating since last couple of years, they have started increasing our network. A case in point, a player like us, we are in our 90s now. We are heading to a century in terms of number of centers. Already mapped about 14 cities. What we see in terms of the way we evolved as a building. So starting the first center in Mumbai was in a Todi estate where co-working was very cool in a shed, right? To taking something at Q Park with Aurum Ventures, right? So it's a grade A plus kind of a asset. So everyone had a journey with respect to that aspect. In terms of densities, what has interestingly happened naturally is because we all follow the AHS norms and all. Now 70% of the co-working demand is customized. So density is primarily, more driven by the customer and occupier side, and it's more of a function of that. That's why the pricing becomes more interesting. How do you price it? The algorithm, which every one of you said, guys, make it simple. So that's how we are seeing things coming around. So been very insightful. I think we are at the end of the play over here. I'll take couple of audience questions which we have got over here. So the first question is, the today choice of office has become more employee driven than with the administrative or CRE teams. So should we look at different approach while targeting enterprise or office users? So Paras, I would love if you could answer this question.
Sure, Sumit. Then it was a great session. So this question was briefly, kind of responded by everyone in bits and pieces. I think employee and employee experience, employees' productivity is at the center stage. From that narrative of admin CRE, I think that is why the whole adoption, emergence, and growth of Flex would depend on employees' productivity as well. So I think it's a happy space. If the organization are looking more from the employee-centric approach to a typical CBD or PBD or SBD kind of approach. So overall, happy space for Flex.
Yeah. So perfect. Next question is, and it's clearly mentioned it's a question for all the veterans. So I mean, we have to choose wisely now. Are landlords being flexible just like co-working managed office service providers? Are landlords ready to include the pandemic clause in the new leases and comfortable in providing relaxations and rentals during that period? Guys, any one of you can take this one.
So yeah, Anand here. I'm not really a veteran, but maybe I can try to answer the question. So I think there is still some resistance. It's so open-ended that it's difficult for landlords to really crystallize it into specific language. So there are so many different types of lockdown that we've all witnessed. The last year lockdown was very, very strict. This year's lockdown was very different. So it's very difficult to quantify, whether business operations will continue to run or not run. And then there's the whole aspect of servers running and offices continuing to function. So access to the office is always provided. So it's a bit of a challenge still, I believe.
Got it. So this is a question around on specific segment of occupier around on MNCs. It says, in your conversations with the demand side of the business, how do MNCs and Fortune 500 view co-working spaces? Where do these spaces fit into their workforce management plans? Bhavin, would request your thoughts on this.
Sure, Sumit. I think it's a mixed bag. Not everyone looks at co-working spaces or managed offices in the same way. It depends on the nature of the business. It depends on the management. It also depends, I think, on the overall culture of the organization. But I think more and more with time, we are witnessing that larger companies, established companies are also happy to look at co-working spaces or managed spaces. And not just as a short-term solution, but more as a medium to long-term solution, which offers them customized spaces, all that they need in their office, which would be an office had they built it themselves, including this hub and spoke model that several companies are experimenting right now. So I think I think it would be a mixed bag, but I would definitely say that it's getting more and more accepted with time.
Got it. Perfect. So then there's a question around on until a couple of years ago, the co-working product was competing with traditionally leased office space product. But now this industry faces competition from the work from home product as well. So I think the gentleman is asking around over here, there are three categories: conventional play, co-working play, and work from home play. How do you think the co-working product must evolve going forward in order to stay relevant, or in order to continue to gain market traction? Karan?
I think the third one is very temporary. The work from home is, in my view. I think people will come back eventually to offices, and maybe earlier the perception, I would always use the word perception here, was that co-working is competing with the traditional office builders and landlords. Is actually they complement each other the best. I think both have to coexist. It's a given fact, and as you go forward, it will be a solution being provided by every landlord or developer. Or a fund, right, in one of in their own campuses or developments which they plan. It is a solution for tenants, all driven by tenants.
Perfect. So I'll take the last question over here. Bhupendra, you can would request you to answer it. It says, do you guys envisage co-working players considering reverse leasing, or do you see any reverse leasing kind of transactions happening in the market?
Well, I think reverse engineering is the order for the day. I think it's the most, it's less of a question, more of a comment. I think whether it is a large occupier, small occupier, a co-working player like yourselves, I think we all want to do that, but unfortunately, it's not happening enough. I think all my friends on the panel will agree that the inhibitions which are created in the audience, which is our friends from the occupier community, I think they're one in many. And most of us, will be spending hours in a week clarifying those questions and repeating. The questions aren't innovating. The questions are the same. So I don't think that this is a question, whoever the question, the origin of the question is from. This is the ask of the day, and this is exactly what is expected. A bit of reverse engineering so that everybody gets a custom fitted solution. And if we can do that, I think there's no way that, somebody asked a question before that are landlords being flexible? Well, there is your answer. You do a bit of reverse engineering and developers will be more than happy to be flexible. A developer sells out a portfolio to a fund or to on a short return basis, eventually for having an occupier over there. Now, if the occupier runs away, it's a cost. So the best thing is that you custom the lease in such a fashion that occupancy remains.
Right.
Reverse engineering is the order for the day. Very well said, whoever said that.
Right. Perfect. Thank you, Bhupendra. A great answer. So, gentlemen, we have got some great insights from all the speakers. We can conclude that the concept of flex workspaces is here to stay, and is quickly gaining momentum due to a lot of factors which we discussed. Whether the future is flex or not is yet to be seen, but a partnership between conventional office property owners and flex operators is a definitive in coming years from my side. So thank you, everyone. Over to you, Paras.
Well, thank you so much, Sumit, for moderating this session. I think great points. So personally, I want to thank Anand, Bhavin, Bhupendra, and Karan for participating in this session and sharing with full heart and transparency that what you think of the ecosystem and where it's heading. I think pretty much we all on the same page. Experiencing traction more or less in whatever form and shape that it is, heading towards the new normal, or like you say, future. And I feel that we are biased that we're going to call it mainstream in a couple of years. So that's it from my side, and thank you all of you.
Thank you so much, Paras.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paras. Thanks, Sumit. Thanks, everyone.
And thanks to all the audience who came. Thank you.